Chaos Space Marines. The twisted, corrupted, and evil versions of humanity's greatest warriors. Once the Emperor's finest, now they're walking proof that therapy was never an option. But here's the thing, Herd. When people talk about these evil bastards, they usually lump them all together, like they're all the same. But just like the Primarchs, there are levels to this shit. These transhumans evolve as they gain blessings and powers from the chaos gods of the warp. Depending on their ambition, their patron god, and what they're willing to sacrifice, a Chaos Space Marine can rise from a disposable pawn to something that rivals even greater demons. So today, we're breaking down the 7 levels of Chaos Space Marines, and showing their brutal progression across the Warhammer 40k universe. So buckle in, Herd, it's time to chuck ourselves down the gow hole and see what it really takes to climb the ranks of chaos. Let's begin first by discussing what a Chaos Space Marine really is. A Chaos Space Marine is what happens when you take one of the glorious protectors of mankind, an Adeptus Astartes, and inject what is essentially warp ketamine straight into their veins. They cast off who they formerly were, turning against the Imperium and the Emperor, and becoming servants to the dark gods. It also seems that when they fall the hardest, as seen in the 5th edition Chaos Space Marines Codex. When a Space Marine falls from grace, he falls further than any other man. A lifetime of deprivation and selflessness is thrown aside, and the Space Marine indulges his newfound independence to its fullest extent. Freed from tradition, constraint, and responsibility, a Chaos Space Marine can exercise his every whim, whether it's for bloodshed, sensual pleasure, ambition, or the love of hatred. So pretty much, when it rains, it pours when it comes to Chaos Space Marines. They are truly getting up to some heinous activities. In addition to being able to do as they please, these Marines are also gifted by their patron gods with powers to increase their strength. Whether he be a traitor from the prestige of the Imperium or a renegade turncoat from a recent war, a Chaos Space Marine will find him slowly reshaped by the diabolical powers he worships into a form that better echoes the darkness in his soul. A Chaos Space Marine will find himself slowly reshaped by the diabolic powers he worships into a form that better echoes the darkness in his soul. This makes them stronger, faster, or more durable, but at the cost of their sanity, mutations, and of course, their souls. For example, a warrior worshipping Nurgle would become far more tankier, but at the cost of heinous, disgusting mutations, like a fucking jaw growing out of their stomach. Or a Marine dedicated to Khorne would enhance him physically, maybe even making him resistant to psychic attacks, but at the cost of his sanity, forcing him to seek battles constantly, even at the cost of his own life. Which seems to me like a way better trade than smelling like literal shit. This leads us directly to the subject of today's video. Chaos Marines are not all equal. Some are more favored than others, making them stronger, and some have even ascended to demonhood. So let's go through these 7 levels, starting at the very beginning, at level 1. Right off the bat, I'll be honest, most Chaos Space Marines don't even begin here, and only a rare few survive this process. Generally speaking, becoming a Space Marine for an aspirant is living hell, mostly because of the relative lack of supplies and apothecaries, the high probability of corrupted gene seed, and Chaos Space Marines being, kind of unstable. Initial recruitment usually comes from slaves or prisoners taken during raids. Promising aspirants are selected according to whatever the recruiters are currently looking for. What might differ between, say, the Word Bearers and the Death Guard. Some might volunteer, others are forced. For example, in the book Lords of Silence, we see that their Chaos Warband does several different things to replenish their numbers. Many of the Lords of Silence are barbarians, taken from the gene pool of that Misreath Hell planet. A slim majority, though, are not. Most of the non-barbarians were created in the eye from stolen gene seed, implanted by the surgeons into screaming infants wretched from feral Imperial planets, and thus have no connection with the forgotten homeworld. Others are turncoats and renegades, refugees from distant Imperial chapters and warbands. So as you can see here, the Lords of Silence, who are probably similar to other Chaos warbands, have a variety of getting new recruits, whether that's kidnapping infants or accepting Imperial refugees into their ranks. But for those becoming Space Marines, the gene seed implantation process, the most dangerous part for an aspirant, is performed by whoever is the most qualified in the warband. Actual trained apothecaries are rare and highly sought after, and many warbands won't have access to good facilities, meaning most of those implanted will die. After that, it's mostly just whoever survives joins the club. There really isn't a standardized program like the Loyalists have. Again, this varies wildly from warband to warband, as some of them can get pretty sick. For example, the Iron Warriors use the Homunculaba to make up their numbers. And let me tell you guys, this thing is gross. From the book Dead Sky, Black Sun, we see it firsthand. Each vast, bloated creature in these cages were female, their bodies swollen beyond all resemblance to humanity. Shackled into their cages, they gurgled and drooled in voiceless madness and torment, their vocal cords having long since been cut. Engorged as they were by unnatural means, Uriel saw that their size was not simply due to their monstrous infusions of growth hormones and dark magics. These gargantuan females were pregnant. No normal pregnancies though. Their swollen bellies rippled when numerous tumescent growths, giant squirming things easily the size of a space marine. With repulsed horror, Uriel realized that he looked on the Demon Copa, vile, terrible, demonic wombs from which were ripped newly created Chaos Space Marines. Each cage was filled with these horribly pregnant monsters, and Uriel wept at their terrible fate. No kidding, buddy, I would do the same. Cloning is also an option, but it's insanely difficult to get right. So to summarize, most aspirants are just slaves taken from various worlds, forced to receive corrupted gene seed shoved into them, and only a very small number survive to reach the next rank: Heretic, Astartes, or your standard Traitor Marines. The second level is where we find Traitor Marines. These are fully fledged Heretic Astartes or your basic Chaos Marines. They are enhanced by corrupted gene seed, serve the ruinous pantheon, and are either recently created or defected from loyalist chapters. Having accepted the Dark Pantheon, they can now indulge their darkest desires with their transhuman might. However, those at this level haven't fought in the Long War from the earliest days of the Horus Heresy. Many are renegades, former slaves, prisoners, or newly created Chaos Marines. But don't let that fool you. They are still incredibly powerful. These Marines are clad in corrupted, scavenged, and warp-infused power armor. Their armor is a chaotic reflection of the god they serve. It may be twisted by warp sorcery, partially possessed by minor demons, or mastercrafted by the Dark Mechanicum. No two suits are the same. Some are decorated with spikes, skulls, or marks celebrating victories or patron gods. Others have grotesque mutations fused into them, a helmet melded with a face, a gauntlet that grows claws, or plates that pulse like a beating heart. The armor not only protects them from bullets, blades, and plasma, but also enhances their physical capabilities. Warp-infused plating can strengthen strikes, resist psychic attacks, or even slowly heal injuries over time. Some lucky or cursed Marines have minor gifts granted directly by their patrons, like a sudden burst of speed here and there, a clawed arm, or the ability to shrug off wounds that would fell a normal Space Marine. At this stage, they are no longer the aspirants clawing to survive, nor loyalist Astartes struggling under the corpse god. They have endured the transformation, embraced their new allegiance, and are ready to wreak havoc in the Dark God's name. But some have been fighting this war for millennia, and that brings us to the next level, the veterans of the Long War. At level 3, we come to the Chaos Space Marine Veteran. These are the Marines who have been fighting the Long War since the very beginning, hence why they earn the title Veteran. They're not recruits or recent defectors, they are survivors of centuries or even millennia of endless campaigns, crusades, and betrayals. These are the ones who saw the Siege of Terra firsthand, fought in the most horrific battles of the Horus Heresy, and probably were there when the Emperor's might was at its peak during the Great Crusade. And as they are survivors of a millennia of war, they are incredibly experienced compared to the other Chaos Space Marines that are defectors or recent recruits. Veterans usually hail from one of the 9 Traitor Legions, each shaped by their patron god and Primarch. So of course, in usual Fallen Cow fashion, let's go through each of them, starting with the Death Guard. Those hailing from the Death Guard are dedicated to the Plague God Nurgle, and so are incredibly resilient, plague-ridden warriors. Diseases, toxins, and plagues barely slow them down. They are the walking embodiment of decay and pestilence. The World Eaters are dedicated to the Blood God Khorne, and live for bloodshed and close combat. Every swing of their chain axes is a prayer in the language of skulls. The Sandman from the Thousand Suns are dedicated to the god of magic Tzeentch. They are the masters of psychic sorcery, and their spells can bend reality, warp perception, and even see the future. The Marines from the Emperor's Children are dedicated to the god of pleasure, Slaanesh. And so, they seek more and more excess and sensation. They seek beauty in all things, including slaughter and ketamine. The Word Bearers are the fanatical worshippers of Chaos Undivided, which means they worship all 4 gods. And they seek to spread the worship of the Dark Pantheon across the stars. Those from the Iron Warriors also worship Chaos Undivided and are masters of siege warfare. The Night Lords are experts in terror tactics, as they can cause fear, panic, and hopelessness, and their enemies as deadly as any bolter. The Schizophrenic Lizards of the Alpha Legion are specialists in misdirection, subterfuge, and infiltration. And last but not least, we have the Sons of Horus, now known in the current setting as the Black Legion. These Marines were once the pride of the Emperor's finest, but now they are the embodiment of Chaos Ambition, led by the War Master Abaddon, who attempts to usher in a new era of chaos and war. Despite suffering heavy losses over the millennia, many of these veterans still fight relentlessly on in the Long War. They combined centuries of battle-hardened experience with the gifts of the Dark Gods, which, as we discussed earlier, are enhancements that sharpen their strength, speed, durability, and in some cases grant psychic or demonic powers. Each of them wears power armor from the days of the Horus Heresy, mixed with gear stolen from loyalist Astartes. Each of them stands as a living testament to what becomes of a space marine who endures the horror of war under the warp's influence. Merciless, unstoppable, and utterly terrifying. They are the true backbone of the Traitor Legions. But from here, we step into an entirely different level, as we go from battle-hardened veterans to the Chosen. Those directly blessed by the Chaos Gods and marked for greatness or damnation. Chaos Chosen are the elite Chaos Space Marines who have centuries of battlefield experience and are the most dedicated warriors to the Chaos Gods, often serving as Chaos Lord bodyguards or leading the vanguard of an assault. Favored by the Chaos Gods, they have access to a vast array of armor and elite weapons. Now you're probably asking yourself, what the hell is the difference between a Chosen and a regular Chaos Marine? Well, imagine you're a Chaos Marine. Yippee, you've raided a couple worlds, you've killed a few hundred people. You are most likely going to die in the next 10 to 20 years. You have little experience, your equipment sucks, and the Chaos Gods don't really care for you.
That's rough, buddy.
But on the other hand, the Chosen have been alive for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, have access to a vast array of different weapons and armor, far better than any normal Chaos Squad, and have the favor of the Ruinous Pantheon. That is the difference.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
The Chosen are so loved, in fact, that they are often a candidate for demonhood, as they carry one or multiple blessings from the Chaos Pantheon, so Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh, or Tzeentch. For example, a Chosen of Slaanesh may receive boons that make them a deadlier swordsman, faster than your average Chaos Marine, or a Chosen of Tzeentch may have their psychic abilities or powers amped by the god of magic. These gifts are awarded in a specific way, which is elaborated on in the 5th Chaos Marines Codex. Champions earn rewards from their gods by destroying their patrons' enemies and achieving obscure missions and quests. So to gain more power, a Chosen must appease their patron by completing more missions, slaying foes, and spreading chaos wherever they go. But there are risks. The more blessings they receive, the closer they get to becoming a Chaos Spawn. A champion of Chaos who survives constant battle will gain more and more favor from his god. These gifts often take the form of physical mutations, some beneficial, some harmless, others debilitating. Though such rewards make a Chaos Champion a fearsome fighter, they risk receiving so many gifts that they lose all control of themselves and become a Chaos Spawn, insane, mindless, howling monsters of mutated flesh. This is the worst fate possible for a Chosen, a terrifying reminder that the god's love is as fickle as it is dangerous. Chosen are heavily equipped, armed with accursed weapons, bolters, and sometimes power fists. The greatest among them may even don Terminator power armor, which gives an even greater level of durability and protection. And if we're being quite honest, these suits are just so goddamn cool, and may be one of my favorite parts about the entire setting. Add in their blessings, weapons, and experience, and these Chosen become near unstoppable. But despite all of this, Chosen are often loyal to one man, their Chaos Lord. And like any ambitious Marine, some dream of one day taking his place. Usually via betrayal, backstab, or a very creatively used poop knife. Which brings us perfectly to the next level, the Chaos Lord. Chaos Lords are powerful Chaos Marines who have risen through the ranks of their warbands or even founded their own warbands to follow their whims and achieve their every desire. Often, they're the most blessed by the Chaos Gods, the most powerful, or the most charismatic among the heretic Astartes. The greatest Chaos Marines ascend to this level, frequently granted mutations and alterations by the Dark Gods to better serve their purposes. Chaos Lords are so formidable that they can bend the forces of chaos to their will, shaping demons, warbands, and entire campaigns. But this power comes at a cost. Advancement is often achieved by killing their predecessor, meaning every step up the ladder is soaked in betrayal and blood. Some lead through brute force, others through cunning, and a few are truly devoted to the Dark Gods, following chaos with zealous, almost religious dedication. Each Chaos Lord serves a patron god from the Chaos Pantheon, and their power reflects their devotion. Khorne Chaos Lords are savage and value physical might or combat above all else. Tzeentch Chaos Lords are scheming, knowledgeable, and often sorcerers. Their mastery of arcane powers makes them deadly at a distance and manipulative in war. Nurgle Chaos Lords are the most physically corrupted. Their bodies are hardened by disease and mutation. And Slaanesh Chaos Lords are obsessed with sensation and excess, and are often the fastest due to hypersensitive reflexes and minds sharpened by pleasure, indulgence, and drugs. Of course, there are Chaos Lords who follow 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of the Chaos Gods, and receive a variety of boons based on their patronage. Their war gear is also just as extreme. According to the 6th edition Chaos Space Marines Codex, the war gear is often as outlandish as their physical appearance. A Chaos Lord may hack enemies apart with a massive chain axe, blast them with an ancient combi weapon, or carve through vehicles with the screaming demon sword. So as you can see, the Chaos Lords are pretty pimped out. They lead their brothers in raids, battles, and massacres against the Imperium, carving a path of destruction that leaves planets in ruin. Some of the most notable Chaos Lords in the current setting include Kosalax the Forsworn, a world eater who actually managed to maintain his sanity, and now leads a vast majority of the former world eaters from the Conqueror. Idawan, the Lord Commander Primus, who still leads a significant portion of the Emperor's Children, and Lord Huron Blackheart, a pirate lord and the commander of the Red Corsairs. Each of these figures embodies the pinnacle of what it means to be a Chaos Lord. Powerful, mutated, and utterly terrifying. But even above the Chaos Lords are those who have shed their mortality entirely, transcending the limits of flesh and bone to become something wholly of the warp, a living fragment of the Chaos Gods. This is where we finally reach the Demon Princes. Demon Princes are former mortal champions of chaos who have been elevated to demonhood by the gods of chaos. They have shed their humanity in exchange for unearthly power, immortality, and a direct fragment of their patron's god essence. To achieve apotheosis, a Chaos Marine, Chosen, or Chaos Lord must commit acts so heinous that they attract the attention of the Dark Gods. And no, this isn't posting a silly reel on Instagram or doing the Ice Bucket Challenge. No. It has to be something truly catastrophic. For example, in the book Black Crusade, Tome of Blood, Goreclaw the Render tracked down and slew over 1,000 loyalist space marines in brutal hand-to-hand combat, leaving thousands of headless Adeptus Astartes across the galaxy as an offering to Khorne. In Dead Sky, Black Sun, Barban Falk the Warsmith during the second siege of Hydra Cortis, successfully capturing Loyalist Geneseed, sacrificing both the Geneseed and the world's population to Nurgle, earning his ascension. Demon Princes can come in various shapes and sizes, as seen specifically in the 8th edition Chaos Demons Codex. Demon Princes can vary enormously in appearance, each mutated according to the whims of their patron god. A follower of Khorne turns crimson or brass, their very aspect bent towards rage and brutality. A devotee of Tzeentch shimmers with a glowing, immural aura of raw magic. Nurgle's followers are bloated, diseased, and terrifyingly resistant. A demon prince raised by Slaanesh moves with unnatural grace and speed, rivaling the Dark Prince's demons. Some also bear extra arms, horns, tentacles, wings, or other bizarre appendages. These demonic ascensions don't strip them of all their former war gear either. Many continue to wield bolters, chainswords, or other weapons from their mortal lives, often augmented with warp-infused enhancements. Some notable examples of demon princes in the current setting are Jendor Scrivok, a Night Lord who ascended sometime after the Siege of Terra, who is famous for getting chucked off the wall by Raldoron. There's also Doomrider, a former Emperor's Children turned Demon Prince biker. While powerful, Demon Princes are far from invulnerable, and many retain flaws or limitations from their mortal lives, sometimes even being outright bums. Yet, as flawed as they are immortal and nearly unstoppable, representing the ultimate achievement of a Chaos Champion, unless, of course, they ascend further. Because above all others stand a select few, the Mortal Champions, each the single greatest warrior, chosen to embody the will of their Chaos God. At the very peak of mortal power stand the Mortal Champions of Chaos. Heavily blessed and empowered Traitor Space Marines, they are the ultimate agents of the Dark Gods. These are typically the strongest warriors devoted to a specific god, individuals so favored that the Chaos Gods themselves may even intervene to preserve their lives. Unlike Demon Princes, however, they are still mortal, meaning they can operate freely in the physical world without the same limitations or reliance on the warp. This makes them incredibly dangerous, as they are able to bring the full might of chaos directly into real space without restriction. These champions exist in a constant struggle, endlessly seeking more power and more blessings to further earn their patron's favor. Each Chaos God elevates their own greatest champion. For Khorne, we have Karn the Betrayer, the leader of the Butcher Horde, the ultimate instrument of slaughter, wielding the infamous Chain Axe Gorechild. For Nurgle, we have Typhus, the biggest piece of shit of all time. I will never forgive him for what he did to Morty and Barry Dagger. I still cry myself to sleep every night.
Oh, I hate you.
Typhus is the herald of Nurgle and the host of the Destroyer Hive, spreading disease and decay across the galaxy as the favored son of the Plague God. For Tzeentch, we have Ahriman, of the 1,000 Suns, a master sorcerer who created the rubric and is forever seeking forbidden knowledge and the ultimate mastery of the warp. And finally, Slaanesh has Lucius the Eternal, a champion of the Emperor's children who is functionally immortal, reborn through those who take pride in killing him. And he is probably the bummiest of the four. These champions grow stronger through slaughter, sacrifice, and devotion, earning the favor of their patron gods and receiving more amps to their power. But even among these god-touched monsters, there is one who stands above them all, the War Master, Abaddon the Despoiler. The title of War Master was once an innocent and glorious title first bestowed upon the Primarch Horus of the Luna Wolves by the Emperor of Mankind. It marked him as the Emperor's proxy during the latter days of the Great Crusade, granting him authority over the 18 Space Marine legions and the power to enact the Emperor's will across the galaxy. Of course, we all know what happened after that. Horus got stabbed with a poop blade, fell to chaos,
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
and launched the Horus Heresy, leading to the galaxy burning, Horus's death at the Emperor's hands. In the current setting, the title is held by Abaddon the Despoiler, Horus's greatest son and his successor. As the War Master of Chaos, Abaddon commands a vast host of traitor marines, drawn from countless legions and warbands. Warbands of the Black Legion are incredibly diverse, drawing upon the staggering breadth of skill and specialization to counter every threat their enemies might pose. They may include millennia-old veterans of the Long War and others hardened by the madness and terror of the Warp. Each squad brings unique talents, allowing Black Legion warbands to achieve objectives that would require twice their numbers for other traitor forces. Every soldier in these warbands swears allegiance to Abaddon, which means the top not fuck most likely has hundreds of thousands of Astartes under his command. But beyond this great host of heretical marines, Abaddon is absolutely pimped out compared to other Chaos Lords or Demon Princes in the 40k universe. He first wears a highly customized, demonically corrupted suit of Terminator armor. It has been heavily modified and repaired with new Imperium equipment, as well as powerful Chaos wards and marks to protect the War Master from harm. Abaddon also wields two of the most powerful weapons in the entire galaxy. The Talon of Horus, a combined Storm Bolter and Lightning Claw once possessed by Horus himself. This weapon has slain 2 Primarchs and mortally wounded the Emperor during the events of the End and the Death. He also wields the Demon Sword Dracnian, the echo of the first murder. With it, he can sever the very fabric of reality, bypassing any physical or energy armor with ease. Even crazier than his arsenal, Abaddon channels the might of all 4 Chaos Gods. Though he is not fully corrupted and maintains a fierce independence from the ruinous powers, he is still vastly empowered. So much, in fact, that the 10th edition Chaos Space Marines Codex states that no Space Marine, corrupted or loyalist, could beat him in combat. He achieved this by visiting each of the Demon Primarchs to gain their favor and power. With the blessings of all 4 Chaos Gods, control over hundreds of thousands of traitor marines, and weapons that can pierce reality itself, Abaddon reigns as the ultimate pinnacle of Chaos power. This is the highest level a Chaos Space Marine can realistically achieve. But the question is, will one ever replace one of the big 4 or Abaddon himself? I highly doubt it. And there you have it, Herd, the 7 levels of Chaos Space Marines. Let's quickly summarize before we end this video. Level 1 were Aspirants, the Desperate, the Doomed, clawing their way through the horrors of mutation and gene seed implantation. Those who experience this level hardly ever survive. Level 2 is your basic Traitor Marine, fully pledged to the Dark Gods, ready to sow destruction. Level 3 is the Veteran, battle-hardened killers of the Long War, scarred by centuries of battle, and blessed by chaos. Level 4 are the Chosen, the elite, personally favored of the Dark Gods. Marked for greatness or mutation. At level 5, we have the Chaos Lord, commanders and warlords, leading warbands with unmatched power and cunning. At level 6, we have the Demon Princes, Chaos Space Marines who have ascended to demonhood and have become fragments of the Chaos Gods themselves. And finally, at level 7, we have the mortal champions of the Chaos Gods. Karn the Betrayer, Typhus the Traveler, Aramin, the Great Warlock, and Lucius the Eternal, along with the War Master Abaddon the Despoiler. They are the greatest Chaos Space Marines in the setting, and all who share the name Chaos Space Marine seek to reach this level. I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of A Fallen Cow. I don't exactly plan to continue doing these level videos, but I thought this would be a fun one to tackle. So if you guys want to see more of these level videos, let me know down in the comments. The next couple videos I have planned are power scaling the Misfits from Dark Tide. That will be coming out later this week. Grading all of the Space Marine Legions based on their performance during the Horus Heresy. And finally, later this month or early next month, we will be getting out who is the most powerful Space Marine in all of 40k. So make sure you stick around for those ones, fellas. A huge shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Imposter Paul, Tyler Pick 7, Musty, Keydri, Seth Capizilla, Lag, Cunning Karkle, Caleb White, Dinkleberry, Omar, Altrazon 27, and Michael Skipper 7277. You guys keep this cow fueled, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you stick around and stay milked. I'll see you all real soon.